The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday in March, delivered by a courier who wouldn't meet my eyes. I signed them at my kitchen table, in the one-bedroom apartment I'd moved into 6 months earlier, the ink smudging slightly under my thumb. Vanessa had kept the house, a 4-bedroom colonial with the garden I'd planted, the cars, and primary custody of our daughter Emma. The settlement left me with my clothing, a modest retirement account, and a reputation in our social circle as the man who couldn't keep up. I didn't contest it. That surprised everyone, including my lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Diane who'd urged me to fight for joint custody at minimum. But I had my reasons I couldn't explain without unraveling a plan I'd been building in silence for 2 years. Vanessa had founded Crescent Digital Solutions 8 years ago, a marketing firm that ballooned into a powerhouse serving Fortune 500 clients. She was brilliant. No one disputed that. Her presentations could turn skeptics into believers, her strategies doubled revenues, and her charisma filled rooms. What people didn't know was that I'd been there at the beginning, not as her cheerleader but as her silent architect. I'd used my background in venture capital and corporate law to structure the company, secure the initial funding, and negotiate contracts that protected her vision while building a foundation that could scale. I did it because I loved her and believed in what we were creating together. When she asked me to step back so she could be the face of the brand, I agreed. When she suggested we keep my involvement quiet to avoid conflicts of interest with my own consulting work, I nodded. When she had me sign documents as a silent partner with terms I didn't read closely because I trusted her, I signed. That trust died the night she told me she wanted a divorce. We were in the kitchen, her kitchen now, and she stood by the island with her arms crossed, her expression composed. "You've been holding me back," she said. "I need someone who matches my ambition." I'd stared at her, my coffee mug halfway to my mouth. "Holding you back. You're comfortable with mediocrity, Daniel. I'm not." She glanced at her watch. "I've already filed. My attorney will be in touch." The next 6 months were a blur of legal meetings and realizations. Vanessa's narrative took hold quickly. She was the self-made entrepreneur who'd outgrown her passive, uninspiring husband. I was painted as someone who coasted on her success, a weight she had finally shed. Friends chose sides, and most chose hers. I didn't defend myself because I was busy pulling strings no one could see yet. Emma was 7 then, bright and gentle with her mother's sharp mind and my cautious heart. The custody arrangement gave Vanessa primary custody with me getting every other weekend and Wednesday dinners. It gutted me, but I told myself it was temporary. Emma didn't understand why Daddy lived in a small apartment now, why Mommy threw parties where people whispered and looked at me with pity on the rare occasions I appeared. One Wednesday in late April, Emma and I sat in a diner near my apartment, splitting a plate of fries. She dragged one through ketchup and asked, "Why does Mommy say you didn't help with her company?" I paused, a fry halfway to my mouth. What did she say exactly? That she built it all by herself, that you were just there. Emma's voice was small, uncertain. I set the fry down and reached across my table to squeeze her hand. "Sometimes grown-ups remember things differently, sweetheart. What matters is that your mom worked really hard, and I'm proud of her." Emma nodded, but I saw the question lingering in her eyes. She was smart enough to sense the gap between the story and the truth. By June, Vanessa's company was valued at $150 million. She gave interviews to business magazines, appeared on podcasts, and keynoted conferences. She was radiant in every photo, her success unquestionable. The narrative was airtight. She was the visionary who'd done it alone. I spent those months reviewing documents with Diane and a forensic accountant named Marshall, a meticulous man who lived for spreadsheets. We combed through every filing, every shareholder agreement, every amendment Vanessa had made over the years. What we found was a pattern of small changes, dilutions of equity here, reassignments there, that she had orchestrated to centralize control. But buried in the original operating agreement, untouched because she'd either forgotten or underestimated it, was my stake, 72%. It was protected by a clause I'd insisted on during the company's formation, a safeguard against hostile takeovers that required unanimous board approval to alter ownership stakes above 50%. Vanessa had never called a vote to change it, likely because she assumed I'd never challenge her, and the board, stacked with her allies, would never side with me. She was wrong on both counts. Marshall leaned back in his chair during one of our meetings, typing his pen against a folder. "She's been operating as if she owns the majority, Daniel. She's made decisions, signed contracts, even taken on debt in the company's name. If you assert your stake now, you can argue she's acted beyond her authority." Diane nodded. "The board will have to recognize your ownership. The question is, what do you want to do with it?" I looked at them both and said, "I want to call a vote."
The invitation arrived in my mailbox 3 weeks later, embossed and elegant. Vanessa was hosting a celebration at the Grandview Hotel, a 5-star venue downtown, to mark Crescent Digital's latest milestone, a $50 million acquisition of a competitor. The invite listed her as founder and CEO, with a note at the bottom encouraging guests to toast a self-made success story. I RSVP'd yes, much to Diane's surprise. "You're going?" she asked over the phone. "I need to be there," I said. "It's time." The party was scheduled for a Saturday in mid-July. I spent the days leading up to it finalizing details with Marshall and Diane, confirming that every document was ironclad and every board member had received the proxy materials. The vote was scheduled for midnight, right after the party, in a conference room Diane had booked under a neutral LLC name. Vanessa didn't know. The board didn't know I'd been the one to call it. I arrived at the Grand View at 8, wearing a dark suit I'd bought specifically for the occasion. The ballroom was dazzling, filled with 200 guests, soft lighting, and a jazz trio playing near the bar. Vanessa stood at the center of it all, glowing in a silver gown, surrounded by admirers. She didn't notice me slip in and take a spot near the back. I ordered a sparkling water and watched her work the room. She was in her element, laughing, shaking hands, posing for photos. Her business partner, a man named Greg who served as COO, hovered nearby, his expression somewhere between pride and unease. I wondered if he'd received the proxy materials yet, if he understood what they meant. At 9, Vanessa took the stage. The crowd quieted and she tapped the microphone, her smile wide and practiced. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she began. 8 years ago, I had a dream and a laptop. I didn't have funding, I didn't have connections, and I certainly didn't have a safety net. What I had was determination and a refusal to settle for anything less than extraordinary. The crowd applauded. I sipped my water, feeling the weight of the documents in my jacket pocket. She continued, her voice warm and confident. "People doubted me. They said I couldn't do it alone, that I needed a partner, a co-founder, someone to hold my hand. But I proved them wrong. Crescent Digital is my vision, my sweat, my success. And tonight we celebrate not just a company, but the power of believing in yourself." The applause swelled. I saw Emma near the front, standing beside Vanessa's mother, clapping politely. My chest tightened. Emma caught my eye and waved, a small, uncertain gesture. I waved back. Vanessa raised her glass. "To all of you who believed in me, and to everyone who said I couldn't, thank you for the motivation. Here's to the next chapter." The crowd cheered. I waited until she stepped off the stage, surrounded by well-wishers, before I moved. I wove through the crowd, nodding at a few faces I recognized, former friends who looked startled to see me, and made my way toward Greg. He stood near the bar, scrolling through his phone, his jaw tight. "Greg," I said, extending my hand. He looked up, surprise flickering across his face before he shook my hand. "Daniel, didn't expect to see you here." "Vanessa invited me." I kept my tone light, conversational. "Thought I should show my support." Greg's eyes narrowed slightly. "Right. Well, it's good of you to come." I leaned in, lowering my voice. "Did you get the materials I sent?" His expression shifted, guarded now. "I did." "You're serious about this?" "Completely." He exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. "Vanessa's not going to take this well." "I know." He studied me for a moment, then nodded slowly. "The board's meeting at midnight, right?" "Conference room C." "I'd appreciate your vote." Greg hesitated, glancing toward Vanessa, who was laughing with a group of investors. "She's been running this company like it's hers," he said quietly. "But the documents don't lie. You've got the majority stake." "I do." He met my eyes, something like respect flickering there. "Then I'll see you at midnight." I thanked him and moved on, making similar quiet conversations with 3 other board members, Linda, the CFO, Marcus, the head of strategy, and Joanna, an independent director. Each of them had received the proxy materials, each of them had verified the documents, and each of them, however reluctantly, acknowledged that the law was on my side. By 11, I'd secured 4 votes out of 7. I needed 4 to call the meeting and 5 to pass the motion. Vanessa would vote against me, obviously, as would her longtime friend and board member Chloe. That left 1 swing vote, an investor named Raj who'd put in early capital and prided himself on staying neutral. I found Raj near the dessert table, sampling a slice of chocolate torte. He saw me approach and sighed. "Daniel, I was wondering when you'd corner me." "Not cornering," I said, "just talking." "Talking about overthrowing the CEO at her own victory party?" Raj set his plate down, his expression weary. "You know how this looks, right?" "I know how it is," I said. "Vanessa's been operating under the assumption that she controls the company. She doesn't. I do. The board has a fiduciary duty to recognize that." Raj crossed his arms. "And what's your plan if you take over? Run the company yourself?" "If that's what it takes." He studied me, then shook his head. "You've been invisible for years, Daniel. Why now?" "Because she took everything else," I said quietly. "And I let her. But this company? I built the foundation. I secured the funding. I structured the deals that made it possible. She didn't do it alone, no matter what story she tells." Raj was silent for a long moment. Finally, he said, "I'll vote with you. But only because the documents are clear. Don't make me regret it." I nodded, relief washing over me. You won't. At 11:45, I slipped out of the ballroom and made my way to conference room C. Diane and Marshall were already there, along with Greg, Linda, Marcus, and Joanna. Raj arrived a few minutes later, followed by Chloe, who looked furious. "This is a coup," Chloe said, slamming her bag onto the table. "This is a board meeting," Diane said calmly. "Where's Vanessa?" "I said it was time," I said. "Someone should get her." Greg volunteered, and 5 minutes later, he returned with Vanessa. She stepped into the room, her expression shifting from confusion to fury as she saw me sitting at the head of the table. "What is this?" she demanded. "A board meeting," I said. "Have a seat."
Vanessa didn't sit. She stood at the edge of the table, her hands braced against the back of a chair, her eyes locked on mine. "You have got to be kidding me." "I'm not," I said. I kept my voice steady, my hands folded on the table. "We're here to discuss the ownership structure of Crescent Digital Solutions and vote on a motion to install new leadership." Her laugh was sharp, disbelieving. "New leadership? Daniel, you haven't been involved in this company for years. You walked away." "I stepped back," I corrected, "at your request, but I never gave up my stake." Diane slid a folder across the table toward Vanessa. "These are copies of the original operating agreement, along with all subsequent amendments. Mr. Hayes holds a 72% ownership stake in Crescent Digital, which has never been legally altered or diluted." Vanessa snatched the folder and flipped it open, her eyes scanning the pages. Her face went pale. No, this can't be right. I've been running this company. I've been signing contracts, making decisions." "Beyond your authority," Marshall interjected. He slid another folder toward her. "These documents outline every major decision you've made in the last 3 years that required majority shareholder approval. You didn't seek it because you assumed you were the majority shareholder. You weren't." Vanessa's hands trembled slightly as she set the folder down. She looked around the table, her gaze landing on each board member in turn. "You all knew about this?" Greg shifted uncomfortably. "We got the materials 2 days ago. We verified them. They're legitimate, Vanessa." "Legitimate?" Her voice rose. "He's been sitting on this for years, doing nothing, and now he swoops in to, what, take over, humiliate me?" "I built this company with you," I said quietly. "I just want what's mine." She slammed her hand on the table, the sound echoing in the small room. "You built nothing. I pitched the clients, I closed the deals, I made this company what it is." "With the structure I created," I said. "The funding I secured, the contracts I negotiated. You told the world you did it alone, Vanessa. You convinced yourself of that story, but it was never true." Her eyes glistened, fury and something else. Hurt, maybe, flashing across her face. "Why now, Daniel? Why wait until tonight?" "Because I wanted to be sure. Sure that you'd take everything else first. Sure that you'd stand on that stage and erase me completely. You did. And now we're here." Chloe leaned forward, her voice tight. "This is vindictive. You're punishing her for leaving you." "This is business," Diane said coolly. "The board has a fiduciary duty to recognize the actual ownership structure and act accordingly. Emotions don't change the law." Vanessa's hands curled into fists. She looked at me, her voice dropping to something quieter, more desperate. "What do you want, Daniel? Money? I can buy you out. Name your price." "I don't want money," I said. "I want control." The room fell silent. Vanessa stared at me, her expression crumbling. "You can't do this." "I can," I said. "And I am." Diane cleared her throat. "We'll now move to a vote. The motion is to remove Vanessa Hayes as CEO and install Daniel Hayes in her place, effective immediately. All in favor?" Greg raised his hand first, then Linda, Marcus, Joanna, and Raj. 5 votes. It was done. All opposed? Vanessa and Chloe raised their hands, but it didn't matter. The motion had passed. Diane made a note in her ledger. "The motion carries. Daniel Hayes is now CEO of Crescent Digital Solutions. Vanessa Hayes' employment is terminated effective immediately, per the standard executive departure terms outlined in her contract." Vanessa's face went white. "You're firing me from my own company?" "It's not your company," I said gently. "It never was." She grabbed her bag and stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. Tears streaked her face now, her composure finally breaking. "You'll regret this, Daniel. You'll run this company into the ground without me." "Maybe," I said, "but it'll be mine to run." She looked around the table one last time, her gaze landing on Greg. "You're going to let him do this?" Greg didn't meet her eyes. "The documents are clear, Vanessa. I'm sorry." She let out a bitter laugh, then turned and walked out, the door slamming behind her.
Chloe followed a moment later, muttering something under her breath. The room was quiet for a long moment. Finally, Linda spoke. So what now? I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. Now, we get to work.
The first week as CEO was chaos. Vanessa's departure sent shockwaves through the company, with employees confused, clients nervous, and the press circling for a story. I spent the days in back-to-back meetings, reassuring stakeholders, reviewing contracts, and trying to stabilize operations. Greg stepped up as interim COO, his pragmatism a steadying force, while Linda worked overtime to calm investors. Emma called me on Thursday evening, her voice small over the phone. "Mommy's really upset, Daddy. She's been crying a lot." I closed my eyes, guilt twisting in my chest. "I know, sweetheart. I'm sorry you're seeing her like that." "She says you took her company. Did you?" I paused, choosing my words carefully. "It's complicated, Em. Your mom and I built the company together a long time ago. We just forgot that for a while. Now I'm helping run it again." "Are you going to be okay?" she asked, and the worry in her voice broke my heart. "I'm going to be fine," I said. "And so will your mom. I promise." By the second week, I'd implemented changes. I brought in an external auditor to review the financials, discovering that Vanessa had been overspending on marketing campaigns that prioritized her personal brand over the company's growth. I redirected funds towards product development and client retention, winning back 2 major accounts that had been on the verge of leaving. I also reached out to employees directly, holding town halls where I explained the transition and invited questions. Most were wary at first, but I was honest about my role in the company's founding and my plans moving forward. Slowly, trust began to build. Vanessa, meanwhile, went silent. She deleted her social media, stopped giving interviews, and retreated from public view. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she was staying with her mother, trying to regroup. Part of me felt guilty. Part of me felt justified. Mostly, I felt tired. One evening in late August, I sat in my apartment with a stack of contracts and a cold cup of coffee, my mind buzzing with decisions I needed to make. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. "Can we have dinner tomorrow? Just us?" I typed back immediately. "Of course, pick the place." We met at the diner we'd gone to back in April, the one with the fries she loved. She slid into the booth across from me, her backpack slung over one shoulder, her expression serious. "You've been really busy," she said, not quite accusatory, but close. "I have," I admitted. "I'm sorry, Em. I'm trying to balance everything." She nodded, dragging a fry through ketchup. "Mommy says you're going to ruin her company." I took a breath. "Your mom's upset. That's understandable. But I'm not trying to ruin anything. I'm trying to make it better." "She also said—" Emma hesitated, then looked up at me. "She said you were always jealous of her." The words stung, but I kept my expression calm. "Your mom and I see things differently right now, but I'm not jealous. I'm proud of what we built together, even if we don't agree on how it happened." Emma studied me, her sharp mind working through the gaps in the story. "Did you really help start the company?" "I did." "Then why did she say she did it alone?" I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "Because sometimes people forget how much help they had. It doesn't mean she didn't work hard. She did, but so did I." Emma nodded slowly, and I saw something shift in her eyes, understanding maybe, or at least the beginning of it. By September, the company had stabilized. Revenue was up, client satisfaction was climbing, and the team was starting to gel under the new leadership. I promoted Greg to COO officially and brought in a new CMO, a sharp woman named Kara, who understood that the company's brand should be built on results, not personality. I also made a decision about Vanessa. I called her one evening, half expecting her not to answer. She did, her voice cautious. "What do you want, Daniel?" "I want to talk," I said. "Not about the company, about Emma." There was a long pause. "What about her?" "She's confused. She's worried. And she loves both of us, even if we can't stand each other right now. I think we owe it to her to try to be civil." Vanessa was quiet, and I thought she might hang up, but then she said, "Fine. We can try." We met at a neutral coffee shop the following week, sitting across from each other in stiff silence. Vanessa looked tired, older somehow, her usual polish dimmed. "You got what you wanted," she said finally. "Are you happy?" "No," I said honestly, "but I'm not miserable either." She stirred her coffee, her gaze distant. "I really believed I did it alone, you know. I wasn't lying when I said that." "I know," I said, "but belief doesn't change facts." She nodded, her eyes glassy.
I'm sorry. For what I said during the divorce. For erasing you. You didn't deserve that. It was the closest thing to an apology I'd get, and I took it. Thank you. We talked for another hour, mostly about Emma, agreeing to co-parent more cooperatively and keep her out of our conflicts. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start.
By October, Crescent Digital had turned a corner. We landed a major contract with a tech giant, expanded into 2 new markets, and earned a profile in a business journal that focused on the company's renewed focus and stability. My name appeared in the article as CEO, with a brief mention of the ownership transition. Vanessa wasn't mentioned at all, which felt both vindicating and hollow. Emma started spending more time with me, her confusion giving way to a cautious pride. One Saturday, she came to the office to visit, her eyes wide as she walked through the sleek space. "You really run all this?" she asked. "I help run it," I said. "There's a whole team making it happen." She looked around, then smiled. "It's pretty cool, Daddy." That smile meant more than any business win ever could. In November, Vanessa reached out again, this time to ask if we could meet about something non-Emma related. I agreed, curious, and we met at the same coffee shop. She looked better now, less haunted, though still guarded. "I've been thinking," she said, "about what I want to do next. I can't go back to Crescent, I know that. But I've been working on something new, a consulting firm focused on helping women entrepreneurs. I wanted to tell you because, I don't know, it felt right." I nodded. "That sounds like a good fit for you." She smiled faintly. "I'm using my own money this time, no silent partners." "Fair enough." We talked for a while, the conversation easier than I had expected. She asked how the company was doing, and I gave her a brief update. She didn't seem resentful, just tired and maybe a little relieved. As we stood to leave, she hesitated. "For what it's worth, Daniel, you're doing a good job. I didn't think you could, but you are." It wasn't much, but it was something. "Thanks, Vanessa." She nodded, then left, and I watched her walk away, feeling the weight of the last year lift slightly. By December, I'd settled into the role. The company was thriving, Emma was happy, and I'd even started dating again. Nothing serious, just coffee with a kind woman named Claire, who worked in HR, and made me laugh. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine. One evening, I sat in my office after everyone had gone home, looking at the framed photo of Emma on my desk. She was grinning in the picture, missing a front tooth, her arms wrapped around my neck. I thought about the journey that had led me here, the betrayal, the fight, the quiet satisfaction of proving everyone wrong. I thought about Vanessa too, about how easy it would have been to let bitterness consume me, to use my power to destroy rather than rebuild. I chose differently, and that choice had cost me sleepless nights, strained relationships, the ache of watching my daughter caught in the middle. But it had also given me something back, my dignity, my company, and a future I controlled. The intercom buzzed, startling me. It was Greg. "You still here, boss?" "Just wrapping up." "Don't stay too late. You've earned a break." I smiled. "Thanks, Greg. See you tomorrow." I shut down my computer, grabbed my code, and walked out into the cold December night. The city lights glittered around me, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Emma and I had dinner plans the next day, pizza and a movie, her choice. Vanessa and I were communicating without venom. The company was stable, growing, and finally reflecting the truth of its origins. I didn't have everything, but I had enough. And that, I realized as I walked to my car, was more than enough.
A year later, Crescent Digital was valued at $200 million. We doubled our client base, launched a new software platform, and earned recognition as one of the fastest-growing companies in the industry. I stood on stage at an industry conference, accepting an award for innovation, and thanked my team, my daughter, and the people who believed in second acts. Emma sat in the front row, beaming. Vanessa wasn't there. She was busy with her own venture, which had taken off faster than anyone expected. We co-parented smoothly now, even attending Emma's school events together, without tension. After the ceremony, Emma ran up and hugged me.
"You were so good up there, Daddy."
I hugged her back, feeling the warmth of her pride. "Thanks, sweetheart." She pulled back, grinning. "Can we get pancakes to celebrate?" I laughed. "Absolutely." We walked out of the venue together, her hand in mine, and I thought about the night I'd stood at the back of a ballroom, holding a secret that would change everything. I'd been angry then, driven by the need to reclaim what was mine. But somewhere along the way, anger had turned into purpose, and purpose into peace. The company was mine, the future was mine, and most importantly, my daughter's respect and love were mine again, earned not through bitterness, but through building something real. As we stepped into the warm spring evening, Emma looked up at me. "Do you ever miss how things used to be with Mommy?" I thought about it. then shook my head. No, Em. I miss some moments, but I don't miss pretending to be less than I was. She nodded, wise beyond her years. Good, because you're pretty great. I smiled, squeezing her hand. So are you, kiddo. So are you.